Welcome back. In this video, we're going to cover the method instruction for the group awareness exercise. Our program includes quite a few methods that work in some way with awareness. These methods are highly effective at helping people to transition to fundamental well-being. Although there are 5 or 6 different categories of meditation methods, depending on how you sort them, roughly half of people seem to be aligned with awareness-based methods and have one of these types of methods work for them in terms of transitioning to fundamental well-being. That's the whole premise of this program. This method was originally put in the course not to help people transition, but to provide a safe initial glimpse of deeper forms of awareness and consciousness beyond the narrative self, or what might commonly be called the egoic self. However, over time, it's helped a sizable number of people transition to fundamental well-being. When you hear a term like awareness, it can seem very vague and difficult to understand. If you're familiar with some kind of religious or spiritual literature that uses this term, it might even seem mystical in some way. One of the things that I learned very early on in the research was that when people in fundamental well-being use a term like awareness, it's actually the most accurate and literal description that they can think of for what they're trying to describe. So it's hardly something mystical or vague. It's actually precise and a concrete description. Everyone has awareness. Presumably, you're awake right now. You're watching this video. If not, wake up. You are, in a literal sense, aware of this video, me, what I'm saying, the place you're in, and so much more. These are the contents of your awareness. They aren't your awareness itself. You have awareness, and that awareness is aware of things like this video, but it's not the video. If you think about it, everything that you experience is something that you've been aware of. We've been having you learn to pay closer attention to your thoughts and emotions, for example. Although you're aware of them, they are not your underlying awareness itself. You do have an underlying awareness, though. Something is aware of this video, your thoughts and emotions, and so on. And this awareness seems to be quite complex. For example, it's aware during sleep. You know this because you can be woken up. Something is aware of when a loud sound occurs, or your baby cries, or when someone is actively trying to wake you up. So whatever awareness is, it doesn't fully go away in sleep. It seems to keep functioning at some kind of minimal level. And it might surprise you to learn that some people have a great deal of awareness when they sleep. I'm not just talking about lucid dreaming here, but actual awareness. Some can literally watch their body and its systems go offline as sleep sets in, watch what occurs all night while the body sleeps, and then watch their body systematically wake back up. Others are so aware that they use that time to think things through, solve problems, and so on, all while their body sleeps. Needless to say, when you're awake, your awareness is tracking a wide variety of things, both things that you're paying attention to like this video, and many things that you're not. At a very basic level, although it's outside your attention, your awareness is monitoring all kinds of things about the environment, for example, just trying to keep you safe. So awareness doesn't just relate to what you can pay attention to. It extends into things that are outside of your conscious experience. Both when you are awake and asleep. So, what is awareness? That's what we want you to explore with this exercise. It clearly exists at many different levels, some of which are very easy for you to experience and classify and understand, and some of which aren't. There are many, many levels and layers of awareness for you to peel your way down through and experience and explore. Many experienced and accomplished finders feel that the number of these layers is infinite, which is important for you to consider as you begin this exercise. No matter how good you get at this, no matter how deep you go, there are always even deeper levels and layers of awareness that you can uncover. There's more detail that you can notice. So this isn't an exercise where you're looking for the awareness. There isn't some kind of right or correct experience of awareness for you to arrive at. This is an exploration, an ever deeper exploration. We'll start by trying to detect a certain type or level of awareness with the instructions in this session. But once you get there, it's really just the beginning. There's an endless amount of depth for you to explore. This is important because extending the range of the depth of awareness that you can experience is an important aspect of fundamental well-being. It and, becoming more present are the first two aspects that we work on in the course. Okay, let's get to the actual instruction for this method. The group awareness exercise, like other aspects of the course, is so simple that your mind will want to latch onto the instructions and complicate them unnecessarily. As always, be especially on guard for this as you do the exercise. The overall goal of the exercise is to focus on awareness itself. This does not mean the contents of awareness. Again, awareness contains everything you experience. The initial level of it that you want to experience as part of this exercise is it as a neutral container for all of your experience. A container that you learned to ignore early in your infancy as you began to focus on the contents of awareness instead of just awareness itself. Your task with this exercise is to wind your way down to being able to directly experience and differentiate as deep a level of fundamental containing awareness as possible, and then to even go beyond that. This does not mean the contents of awareness. It doesn't mean your thoughts about awareness or how it manifested a few minutes ago. Awareness is not your thoughts, it's not your emotions, memories, sensory information, actions, what you're trying to do, and so forth. The level of awareness that we're interested in having you initially experience here is what contains all of those things. So, if during the exercise you find yourself making comparisons or expressing ideas, you're not describing the level of awareness we're looking for here. If you're describing something you see, hear, smell, taste, or feel, you're not describing the level of awareness being sought out with this exercise. These things are all the contents of awareness. Remember that the overall goal is to describe awareness itself, not its contents. You may be asking yourself, what's left if you take all of that away? Well, that's exactly what you're trying to discover and experience during this exercise. The minimum amount of time to do the exercise is 60 minutes. During the experimental phase of our research project, we use 90 minutes for this, which is what I recommend. If you can find more time, it can be especially powerful to do 2 or 3 hours or even longer. The longer the session, the more you're required to focus and stretch, because you really have to dig in and continue to describe ever deeper aspects of fundamental awareness. Ultimately, how long your group goes on is up to you. It's a good idea to leave a few minutes to gather at the beginning and to leave a few minutes to briefly debrief at the end. Again, we don't want to conceptualize this too much, but it is a good idea to just check in with each other a little bit at the end. Once you're all set up, everyone is logged in and you're set to go, it's time to begin the actual practice. The exercise is done in rounds. Each person must have a turn, and only one turn, every round. You cannot skip any rounds. You have to have a turn every round. It's easiest to pre-assign an order for people to go in. Going in alphabetical order greatly simplifies things. You may also find it beneficial to reverse the order in some sessions if you're with a regular group, so that you're not always following the same person in every session. During the exercise, simply place your attention on awareness itself, and when it's your turn, describe out loud whatever you are sensing about it. When we put our attention on many things throughout the course, while we put our attention on many things throughout the course of the day, awareness is rarely or almost never one of them. Specifically, you're trying to put your attention initially on the level of awareness that serves as a container for all of your other experience. That's literally what it does. It allows you to experience everything else. It provides that capability, and this is why we say that it's the container for all experience. So again, it's not the things it contains, the things you usually put your attention on, like the objects in a room, ideas, emotions, and so on. The level of awareness we're looking for initially is a more fundamental one that contains all of those types of things and many more. You may find it useful to start your statements during the exercise with phrases such as awareness is or there is. You may also find it useful to eliminate subjects and verbs and to just use the descriptive words themselves. For instance, you might say vast and still instead of awareness is vast or awareness is still. Speak spontaneously from and about your experience in the exact moment you are speaking. Don't describe a past experience, and by that I mean even one from just a second ago. Don't compare this moment's experience of awareness to any other moment, yours or someone else's in the group. You may find it useful to avoid sentences that start with phrases such as I feel, or I sense, or I think, because those phrases can easily lead you to describe content rather than awareness itself. If you find yourself using speech to do anything other than describe your direct experience of awareness in this moment, stop. Avoid ideas, concepts, theories, frameworks, hypotheses, comparisons, memories, questions, guesses, or speculation about awareness. As you become more aware of awareness itself in the moment, you'll find it easier to speak without disconnecting from that awareness. When you're done with your turn, either fall silent or use a pre-agreed upon word or signal to let the next person know that it's their turn to go. If necessary, to avoid distracting sounds, mute yourself when it's not your turn. When it's others' turn, you should remain focused and with your attention on awareness. You will see, hear, and feel things coming into your field of awareness, such as your fellow group members during the exercise. Don't ignore those things, but remain focused on trying to access as deep a level of awareness as possible, even when it's not your turn. Resist any urges to try to pre-plan what you're going to say while other people are taking their turns. It's very common for people to worry about what others are going to think of their description of awareness during the exercise. To the greatest extent possible, you have to put that out of your mind and just focus on your present moment experience of awareness. Then, when it's your turn, you simply say whatever your present moment experience of it is. Then let the group move on to the next person. The exercise should feel like one continuous flow to you, with you keeping your attention on as deep a level of your awareness as you can all throughout it. Although there's often a tendency to want to close your eyes during the exercise, initially it should be done with your eyes open and while looking at your computer screen. This helps it to integrate with your experience of the external world. After you have extensive experience with the exercise, you can then experiment with sometimes closing your eyes. It's also best to keep your eyes still and locked in one spot on the screen. Because of this, it's a good idea to set the software you use to just show the person who's speaking if that's possible. In that circumstance, you want to have everyone line up their cameras so that they're centered in the middle of the screen. Then when you go from person to person, you can be looking at their face without having to be tempted to move your eyes. You can choose to focus your vision or soft focus when looking at the screen. Either one of those is perfectly fine. When it's your turn, some software, depending upon which one you use, will show you your own face, and you'll be looking at yourself. If that bothers you, you can instead look at the webcam for the entire exercise and just stare at the camera instead of staring at the screen. Because it's best not to move your eyes, again, you just want to pick one of these two and just keep looking there the entire time. There's no fixed amount of time for you to speak when it's your turn. Simply describe awareness for as long as you're able, but keep the overall time constraints in mind. It's best to start out short and with short descriptions of your present moment awareness and make them longer as the exercise proceeds. Giving longer descriptions forces you to dig in your heels and really stretch for new aspects of awareness to describe. Having said that, there is an overall session time limit and there are other people to consider. So you don't want to go on for like 10 minutes or something. A good upper limit may be around 5 minutes. I think even that is pretty extreme and should only be considered in the rarest and most exceptional of circumstances. In many cases, you'll probably just find that your turn lasts for a few moments. And maybe the upper limit will be something like half a minute. Now, again, what you want to do during the beginning part of the exercise is probably go a little bit faster because everybody's getting comfortable. And so just plan on really sharing maybe 1 or 2 words that describe the experience, very much like we have in the sample video that you'll see. But as you get to the 10-minute point, the 20-minute point, the 30-minute point, and so on, you want to extend this. You want to be describing it a little bit more. And so what might start off as really just a second or two might go to 15 seconds and then to 30 seconds, as an example, over the course of the exercise. And you're really digging in and you're really trying to more deeply and richly describe awareness. Now, if for some reason you haven't been able to remain focused on awareness as the other people have gone around, it's perfectly okay to pause when it's your turn and really try to sink into sensing the most fundamental aspect of your awareness possible prior to speaking. As you move more deeply into the session, it can also be a good idea to pause for a moment before speaking just to really sink as deeply as you can into awareness. Just prior to your speaking, someone else probably was, and using a moment of silence to deepen even further can be a helpful suggestion. This is especially the case after around 40 minutes of doing the exercise, but you'll learn to naturally sense when it's a good time to sink more deeply into sensing your direct experience prior to speaking. You may not skip your turn again. You are always experiencing awareness, so there is always something to describe. Your goal is to connect with that throughout the exercise and verbalize it in the moment that it's your turn. As the rounds proceed, it's likely that you'll find yourself recognizing aspects of your experience in what others are saying. That's perfectly fine. In fact, it's a benefit of the exercise. Everyone lifts everyone else up by recognizing and bringing different aspects of awareness into the experience of doing the exercise. There will also be times where you feel that you've run out of things to say or are repeating yourself. When you don't need to have something new every single time it's your turn, it's perfectly fine to keep saying the same thing as long as that is the aspect or aspects of your direct awareness that are showing up for you right in that moment. If that's the case, something else that you might want to do is consider reporting using a word like unchangingness or something similar. Having said all that, remember that there is truly no depth to awareness and no limits to the depths of awareness. And so there's always more that can be sensed and described. And if you find yourself coming up with the same description again and again and again and again, and possibly even feel that you've reached the deepest and most fundamental level of awareness, well, frankly, the reality is you haven't. So what you've hit is just a temporary limitation. And you can definitely pay even closer attention to awareness and realize yet deeper layers. Everyone can. It's also fine to say the same thing that someone else says if that is truly your experience of awareness in the moment. It's important to keep in mind that you are not being judged by your fellow group members on how many different ways you can find to describe awareness. In fact, you're not being judged at all. Your only goal is to increasingly try to stretch and dig down deeper into the level of awareness that you're able to experience. You are, however, self-facilitating this group exercise, and you need to help each other to catch unconscious patterns of speech and thinking. It's natural to not want to do this. It's natural to not want to interrupt someone who's sharing during his or her turn to point out that, in fact, they're describing the contents of awareness and not awareness itself. Basically, no one wants to be thought of as rude. However, you're here to help each other. The best service you can provide each other during this process is to assist your fellow group members with uncovering their unconscious patterns. Someone may genuinely believe that she or he is speaking about direct awareness when that is clearly not the case. This must be gently pointed out to them, and you must go into the exercise genuinely wanting your fellow group members to help you realize it by pointing it out when you need it as well. The environment your group sets for this exercise needs to be one of mutual support and help. You cannot view this type of assistance as anything other than genuine and sincere help, whether you're giving or receiving it. All right, let me give you some additional tips. First, try to stay relaxed and make this process as effortless as possible. Reaching fundamental well-being is not about effort. So when you really get this exercise, it won't be either. Initially, this can be a difficult exercise. Some people get it right away and have amazing experiences, but many people struggle with it, even for multiple sessions before it starts to click. Since your early childhood, you've probably made a strong habit of ignoring these more fundamental and foundational levels of awareness. That habit is deeply ingrained, and quite a bit of the course is designed to work on resetting it. This is the first exercise that tackles that head on. It's very natural for us to begin by describing the contents of our experience without even realizing it. For example, it's common to default to describing either what our external senses are perceiving or what we're feeling. Another very common thing, even after a lot of practice with the exercise, is making comparisons. Someone might say, now I feel this, but a moment ago I felt that. Or they may even contrast their experience to one or more other members of the group and what that person or those people mentioned when it was their turn. All of these types of things need to be caught and avoided. The level of awareness you're striving to detect and become aware of is the container, not the contents. These are all contents. Of course, as with meditation, your mind will wander, but in a group exercise like this, you have the opportunity for that to happen far less frequently. As I mentioned, while others are speaking, keep your focus on your own awareness. Their words are contained within it, so you can hear them, and that can be beneficial, but do not lose focus on reaching for and paying attention to ever deeper levels of your own awareness. When the time comes for your turn, simply say how you're experiencing awareness itself in that moment. Another thing to realize about this exercise is that awareness can often show up as very subtle. If you think about it, it's the container of experiences, and thus it's easily obscured by those experiences. In that sense, it's like the movie screen that a movie is projected onto. It's always there. It has its own properties, but it's generally obscured by the content that's projected onto it. In this exercise, we're initially trying to ignore the movie, detect the screen, and then describe its properties. Some people have read religious or spiritual accounts where the term awareness was used to describe some powerful and maybe even strange sounding experiences. Generally speaking, it's likely that most of those were experiences that were contents in awareness. They should not be viewed as something that you're trying to get to during this exercise. The term awareness is also sometimes used in other contexts, such as to describe psychedelic drug experiences. Again, these are experiences within the container of awareness. They are not awareness itself. It's important not to fall into the trap of thinking that this is an exercise, that this exercise is sending you out in search of some powerful altered state of consciousness. We're looking for the movie screen, and we don't care at all what's projected on it. Recording the session can be a very good idea, as can doing a solo practice, and these two things are kind of related, so let's talk about them for a moment. So you can practice this style of noting awareness on your own. You should not sacrifice other course practice time to do that. You should only do it as something extra at this point if you choose to. A solo version of the group awareness exercise can be done out loud if you're alone or silently if you're not. It can be done in a dedicated session or just casually as you go throughout your day. I highly recommend that from this moment on in the program, you do the latter at a minimum, that you, as much as you possibly can, as often as you think about it as you go through your day, note awareness. Note the qualities of awareness. Many people find this to be an incredibly beneficial practice to integrate describing awareness into their lives. This is a great, frankly, this is just great to take advantage of while you're in the course and beyond if it resonates with you. But keep in mind, for course purposes, individual practice is not a substitute for the full session requirements mentioned previously. If everyone in the group agrees, you can also record one or more of your group sessions. Some of the forms of software that you can do this with will allow you to do that. And this can be very helpful for two reasons. First, watching early sessions can help you to identify the extent to which you're really going deep in terms of what you want to describe around awareness, as well as how much you're truly following the spirit of the exercise in general. Now, once you have the hang of the exercise, these recordings can also be useful to watch back. Many course participants have reported that it's a powerful experience to watch their group session play from a recording while at the same time they sit there and focus their own attention on awareness. Another alternative is to watch them back while focusing on your own awareness, but not with the intent of describing awareness. Rather, you can just focus on your group members' descriptions, internally compare them to what you experience, and see how they match up. Now, don't make that an analytical, symbolic type of process. Just you hear someone's experience and you just gently reflect, is that my experience in this moment? This can be a great way to stretch your observations of your own internal awareness because each of you are probably noticing different subtle aspects of the experience. I know this sounds like one of those things that it's hard to imagine really matters and thus is easy to skip, but it takes a lot of the live interpersonal dynamics out of the equation and provides an entirely different perspective that the exercise comes from. And let me tell you, it has been so powerful and effective for people over time. We used to originally require this as part of the original Finder's Course experiments. The next page in the course room contains a short sample session that you can watch to get the gist of this process. Keep in mind that everyone in that sample session is deeply within fundamental well-being, and most of them have extensive group awareness exercise experience. They're reporting their direct experience, which might not be anything like what you can initially perceive. It's no problem. Whatever you do, don't just watch this video and think, okay, I get what I'm supposed to be saying here. Okay, I'm going to look like a pro in my sessions. You must speak from your own direct experience and nothing else for this exercise to work. There's also another section in this part of the course that has a very important video for you to listen to. That video is from Finder's Course 1, and it's actually just audio with a graphic. So if you don't see anything except sort of some cloud-looking type graphic, that's totally fine. And it's really a video that contains powerful tips for doing this exercise. It really sets you up to be able to start this exercise from the deepest level possible. And it even contains a guided meditation in it. So be sure before you do your first group awareness exercise that you go through that video. Okay, that's it for this video. Enjoy, and I'll see you next time.